Hey guys, what's up? It's Dan Weinberger here, CEO of Morpheus.Network, with another AMA. As always, I would start the AMA by thanking the community. You guys provide the questions. I'm just answering the questions. So really, it's your AMA. So thank you guys so much for finding these awesome questions. And without further ado, let's get right to them. So here we go. Hi, Dan. Can you tell us, please, how many talks regarding potential pilots do you have now? Also, how many pilots do you run which we don't know about? How frequently nowadays are you getting interest from companies who themselves approach Morpheus.Network? Do you see increase in interest from companies, agencies, government bodies reach out to you first? The latest good PR and press conference, any impact on the interest? All right, great question. I really appreciate these questions, as I mentioned before as well. And yeah, we're definitely getting some organic sort of like reach out from companies out of nowhere. Suddenly people reaching out saying, hey, I've seen this announcement, I've seen this project, or I see you conducted this pilot for this specific, for example, through Chin Lee, we actually had another manufacturer see, compressors being tracked saying we have pumps. So that was, sort of a company that reached out, being able to see our PRs that we put out there. So, but really it's, a lot of these contacts and connections, are through these amazing partners and, through our team itself. So when I'm talking about partners, I'm talking about Customs Direct, I'm talking about Blockchain Guru. We're excited to announce a couple new, ISVs and companies that are working towards expanding what we're doing as well. So, when it comes to talking to these companies that we're dealing with through Customs Direct, through companies that I've dealt with or through, Carl's dealt with for many, many years, it's not about, making that first phone call and right away having them, invite, they'll invite myself and Noam to their office. It may seem like that's how it goes. We can reach out to anybody, but really it's the months, if not years, if not decades and decades of reputation building that you have with these companies in order to get your foot through the door. So when it comes to working with companies through Ben, through Ben Smith, through Carl McDermott, through Blockchain Guru, really it's not about, Morpheus and this, startup, a supply chain automation platform that we've created. It's about the years and years of connections that they've developed with these amazing networks. So, the clients and companies that we're dealing with, it's really a huge compliment to us that the companies that are connecting us to these companies, such as the Blockchain Gurus and the Customs Directs and Ben and Carl and so on and so forth, that they do trust in what we're creating and are excited about it just like we are. So opening up their networks to us is a way of showing that. So yeah, great question. Hopefully I answered that properly. So, and yeah, there are a ton of pilots going on, as you can see. We've announced, a double-digit amount already in China as well as the United States. We do have pilots going on in many countries around the world. So yeah, I look forward to announcing more of them and showing you guys how we're leveraging the platform, different places, and different functionalities. So, all right, next question. I can see there are more and more pilots from China. How do those companies find out about Morpheus.Network? So yeah, myself, I actually was in China last year, end of the year. I have to go back. I plan on going back this year, but it hasn't quite happened. We do have a Morpheus.Network representative down there, Xu Zhang. I've known him for a couple of decades myself, and similarly to how Benjamin and Carl have looked into their own networks, and Xu Zhang as well has tapped into different clients and different companies he's worked with in the past and gotten to perform these amazing pilots. And he sees the amazing value in the platform, as do I, and as do everyone we work with, and that value he's putting towards the company he's worked with as well. So really great to have him on the team as well. And yeah, he looks forward to working with us for many years and expanding to even more companies. And I will, as I mentioned before, we will be shortly announcing more pilot projects with amazing companies in China too. So next question here. Sorry. How many NDAs does Morpheus.Network have at the moment? When would expire the date when this can be announced public? Okay. Yeah, we've dozens of NDAs out there. And it doesn't necessarily mean that, when an NDA expires that we should announce the fact that we had an NDA in the first place. And, companies out there that, we're signing NDAs with, the real goal is not to, sort of hype some sort of connection to these companies and the fact that we're working with them, but actually to, have an implementation take place where we're actually transacting with them. So, we have these implementations ongoing with companies, and the dozens and dozens of NDAs out there is working towards more implementations. And then once we get those, transactions flowing, I know everyone wants to, know about, how many transactions are flowing through the platform. That is post implementation, right? So you can be running, test transactions all day long, making sure that everything's running perfectly. And then when you have the kickoff with that company, that's when you're actually processing, heavy transactions, which we want to see through the pilot. So through the platform, excuse me. So yeah, here we go. And yes, when it comes to NDAs, they are in place for a reason. The companies we're working with, want us to sign an NDA, and we have to respect that. And breaking an NDA or anything like that is definitely not in our best interest in any in any fashion. So thank you again. How many hashes daily are being processed at the moment? Daily hashes, through our implementations, POCs, pilots, we're talking hundreds and hundreds of transactions daily. Now I know everybody wants to hear, thousands, if not tens or hundreds of thousands of transactions, getting us towards, the necessity of master nodes, which we've heard in the past from our developers at around 1 million per day. Now, as it goes right now, these implementations, they are ongoing, right? So, we will actually have before the end of the year, have a really, amazing announcement about a completed implementation and transactions flowing through the platform steadily. I was very excited to, sort of get out there for everybody and show you what we're working on with that specifically. But when it comes to our, what we're growing with and what we're working towards, when it comes to, becoming a part of the Geotab marketplace, working with SAP and developing co-developing a fraud prevention, protocol along with SAP. Working with all these, small and medium enterprises that we're talking to, the large enterprises as well. Working through these processes, like I'll let you know right now, for large enterprises, we are mapping processes for large enterprises. It does not take, a day or a week, or sometimes even a month just to get the proper data we need in order to map those processes. So, we are working in the right direction with major companies, getting Morpheus, sort of on the right platforms when it comes to Geotab and SAP and so on and so forth. So yeah, and it comes to these large companies as well, the fact that they're investing their time and money into us in order to get these implementations, down the road, which is fantastic. It means that they're, in a sense, going to follow through with continuing to work with us, putting their time and money into it right now. So, and yeah, did I mention also that we're working with multiple customs brokers, various borders, various government bodies, certain project with Department of Homeland Security as well, along with Customs Direct. So yeah, the tons of things going on right now. And as the implementations come, the transaction volume and all that will flow as well. And I think maybe I can actually speak a little bit. We had within the Telegram sort of channel, I saw some chat from one of our ship chain community members who stopped in and asked some questions about scalability and so on and so forth. And first of all, I'd like to say that I actually personally met with Lee and John and Sam and that team. And they're fantastic guys. Lee actually gave us some great stories about his global travels. And I talked with Sam about our eating habits and clean living and so on and so forth. So really great guys. And, down the road at the right time when it makes sense for them and it makes sense for us, we're definitely gonna be collaborating on something. So, and, when it comes to, the scalability questions and all that, our design for the platform to be blockchain agnostic is not by chance, right? This is the design of the platform from the beginning. So when it comes to Ethereum and the scalability issues, and people have all these questions about Ethereum, we do have solutions in place when it comes to obviously, using specific functionality within masternode system, but at the same time, we are blockchain agnostic. So if Ethereum, let's say one day went away, which that's not going to happen, but let's say it did, we would be able to transition and hop into another blockchain, whether it's the Loom network, whether it's Stellar, and whether it's EOS, so on and so forth. So we've definitely done our homework, and we've designed the platform in a certain way. And I will say as well, certain companies have things on the go that they're developing and implementing. Let's say, for example, on a private-based blockchain, so Hyperledger-based system. So we have to be able to remain flexible be able to use the platform based on what the client's needs are, and not be rigid and holding to a certain blockchain. So we've actually been, in a sense, planning from the beginning that if scalability for Ethereum wasn't in the cards, that we'd have various solutions in place. So we really do, and we really appreciate any community member from any from any other project coming in, giving us their their knowledge from their community, and also asking the great questions that you do. So thank you. Is there any time frame for the listing of the token so citizens of the U.S. can participate? There's nothing specific that I can mention at the moment right now. But yes, thank you for that, and I'll let you know that we're always working on things. So thank you again for that. So have your expectations are the same towards the revenue using the roadmap, or do you think things are going faster than expected? There's definitely some unexpected projects that we're running. Like I did not in my wildest dreams imagine we'd be running a proof of concept with Department of Homeland Security, which is absolutely crazy. But to be honest, it's not like I'm churning these numbers through our financial projections calculator on a daily basis. So my honest answer to that is I'm not too sure. But I am extremely excited about how excited everybody is about it, and I feel the exact same way. So I'm with you guys. I was wondering, what could a company do if the QR sticker accidentally falls off or is purposefully removed? Oh, wow. Now listen, supply chain, it's, global supply chain especially, it's all around the world. So you can't control what happens, in every situation. So, something accidentally falling off, being taken off, that's one situation. Damage to the product itself, weather situations happen, human error, obviously accidents and so on and so forth. So think of handling a single container, whether it's a human himself moving the goods into the container itself with a forklift. Then you have cranes moving the container, things swinging around. You don't know if things can get moved around. And if a QR code or a sticker falls off, then that is a situation that you have to deal with. These things being handled dozens and dozens of times, we do have issues with damage and so on and so forth. Now, with our QR code system, which is fantastic, is that the last time that QR code was scanned, you do get that latitude and longitude of where that scanner was located. So what you could do is if you do, let's say, find a QR code on the floor of your warehouse, if you scan that QR code again, at least you have that last spot where this machine or whatever it was that had that QR code on it. This is the last point that it was handled, or last point that we know that it was located before the QR code fell off. That data can be added to the digital footprint as well, saying that it's been scanned. This is where it's been scanned. This is where the last point that we know it was, but the QR code has fallen off, and you can include that as a part of your digital footprint as well. So yeah, there are things that happen on a daily basis where you can't control it, but yeah, we do add value in the visibility, even in a situation if someone rips it off or if it falls off accidentally. But yeah, that is a great question. That does happen. I'm sure, on a daily basis all around the world. So, hey Dan, I just want to say the team you've put together is top notch. Thank you. Also want to interview Ben Smith. Is going to be penetrating the cannabis industry. Elaborate on this venture, location, so on and so forth. Yeah, I can't get too deep into the specific projects themselves, but most definitely, Ben, has a tremendous network. I was able to reach out, to places all around the world. The cannabis company specifically was in the United States, but Ben's strength, I'd say, was all over North America and South America and Central America as well, all over Latam. So we're going to see a whole bunch of projects popping up all over the place. When it comes to cannabis industry specifically, the reason it makes sense is because the provenance where the cannabis itself comes from is so important, especially nowadays where it's transitioning from transition to being sort of like almost like a pharmaceutical, various oils and CBDs and so on and so forth. Knowing exactly what strain, where that strain came from, the handling points all the way down the line. If something is an oil, what type is it? An indica or sativa type? If something is a CBD, the levels of CBD, levels of THC, and so on and so forth. So all this can be included within a digital footprint. It's just a perfect use case. Similar to using our detailed digital footprints for pharmaceuticals, using it for food products and so on and so forth, the certifications, using it for industrial machinery, knowing exactly who the engineer was that inspected that machine. All this extra info you can add as a part of your shipments, makes the platform and takes advantage of the strengths of the platform, and the cannabis industry is specifically something like that as well. So great question on that. Hi, Dan. Since the token sale, the ROI currently sits at minus 70%. Okay. Yeah, Morph's going to add value to start supporters in the coming months. Okay. No, this is an interesting question, most definitely. First of all, I'd like to specify. You mentioned ROI, that's return on investment. That MRPH, is a utility token, right? So, the token itself to be used, then the token fees, the SaaS platform fees, or the transaction fees of the platform itself. So a question about return on investment, so on and so forth, doesn't really make sense when it comes to MRPH and our token specifically, because it wasn't an investment from the beginning. But to speak on that specifically, if we're looking at the market generally, and even our particular, there's certain assets and tokens out there that were promoted as investments, unlike MRPH, is a utility token, of course, and even Ethereum for that matter as well. We're seeing the same sort of value decrease for those two. So it's a market issue. Once again, what MRPH is doing with the utility does not exactly correlate to this question, but I do understand what you're saying exactly. And to be honest, what we're doing is building towards sustainable business for Morpheus.Network. We're working with our clients, we're working with our partners, putting in the extra efforts that's necessary in order to make this work. And no job is too big or too small. I'm willing to put on any hat that's necessary within the company in order to push things through and make sure that everything works out well for not only our clients, not only for the company, but also, as you mentioned, the original token cell contributors and the current contributors as well. So thank you for that. How many pings think will happen to Geotab API by the end of 2020? Now, our work with Geotab, along with a bunch of other companies as well, is actually in the early stages. So in a sense, it's impossible to predict the daily usage by 2020. I wouldn't want to throw a number out there. I will hint, that I'm excited about it because I have something to announce about what we're doing with Geotab. Hopefully this quarter, I'll be able to get that out for you guys, but move in the right direction. And we can have some more accurate, numbers by how many pings through the API to Geotab. Maybe mid of next year, we can discuss that as well. So now, how much MRPH is transferred during each ping to write to the chain? Okay, 0.001, maybe 0.1. Okay, this is a great question. And that's actually not the way it works. It's not like a certain amount is needed to write to the chain, so on and so forth. It goes by what is needed by the platform. So we have that 1% transaction fee when it comes to the payment. So if someone uses the payment processing of the platform itself, very simple. For example, someone wanted to send a $100 USD transfer, into a Canadian dollar, to Canadian dollars for the receiver, and let's say there's a 30% exchange rate. Not that that matters, but $130 Canadian would be received. You'd have that 1% transaction fee, which would be $1 USD. And hypothetically, if the token price of MRPH is 0.2, you'd be looking at 5 MRPH basically for that transaction, for the payment itself. Now, when we're talking about a lot of the clients that we're working with right now, let's say they're not using the payment process system. It's a completely different, transaction fee system. It's a SaaS-based fee. So basically, once again, it goes by the transaction itself. So, if it's something as simple as just a workflow that's needed with a single QR, it's completely different from something like an ocean-going shipment. So, for example, for $200, you get the entire use of the platform, including ocean-going shipments for an ocean container. Now, for that $200 that the client itself pays, not all $200, is used towards the MRPH transaction fees. Reason being, that we're using, third-party companies, so the actual, digital certificate docs have to be paid for from the third party. So that costs $100. So from the 200, we're down to 100 itself. And then on top of that, if they're using, let's say, an IoT trigger as well, an IoT device connected, let's say through Geotab, if it's a telematics device, or through our partners with Hanha with a Parcel Live device as well. That's all built into the price as well. So basically, our third parties have to be paid off in order to work with them. And then afterwards, whatever is left from that transaction fee, from that SaaS-based transaction fee, that's what's converted into MRPH. And so once again, it goes after all those expenses are paid, which has to happen first in order to keep the wheels in motion. And I hope that clarifies a little bit more. So it's, once again, we have different levels of service. I mentioned the $200 for ocean going shipments. If it's something as simple as, cross-border shipment Canada, US, we have systems in place with Customs Direct that are under $100 for every single crossing, which includes generate your documents, QR code scans, and the actual customs brokerage itself, which Customs Direct, of course, has to be paid for to handle that for the client. So, and really, that was the rest. That was the rest of my questions over here. So, really appreciate these awesome questions. Kind of touched on a whole bunch of different subjects as well. I'm extremely excited the way we're going. Anyways, any other questions that I did not touch on, or if I didn't cover your question for some reason, that's what I had on, on Reddit up to this point. And I'm happy to do these more often. What I really want to do actually is maybe answer these, one question at a time, and have these individual sort of videos go out more often. It might be a little easier for my schedule as well than doing a long video like this, which I enjoy doing as well. So once again, everybody, thank you so much for the questions. To the community, as always, everybody, have a great day.